I don't know how you got here. Maybe you're just scrolling. Maybe this video popped up randomly. But somehow, out of all the places you could be, you're here. And that matters. Because this video, it won't be here forever. One day, it will be gone. Maybe I'll delete it. Maybe YouTube will shut down. Maybe something bigger will happen. And when that day comes, the words I'm about to say, the story I'm about to tell will disappear, just like everything else. So listen carefully. This isn't just a video, it's a moment, and it starts on a mountain. I don't know why I was climbing that mountain. It wasn't some spiritual quest. It wasn't some life-changing mission. It just felt like I had to do it. Maybe you felt it too. That quiet pull towards something you can't explain, the urge to somewhere to do something even if you don't know why. I started early in the morning, alone. The air was thin, the wind was biting at my face. Every step felt heavier the higher I climbed. But something kept me moving. Something kept me going. And that's when I saw it. A small wooden hut, standing there on the edge of the mountain. Like it had been waiting for me. At first, I thought I was abandoned. Just another relic of time forgotten by the world. But then, I saw him. An old man, sitting outside by a fire, staring into the flames like they were telling him secrets. I don't know why I stopped. I watched him for a moment. I was just expecting him to ignore me. Instead, he looked up, right at me, and then he smiled. That's when he spoke. And he said, well, that's why I'm making this video. Because his words, they won't be here forever either. He mentioned for me to sit. No words, just a simple gesture. I hesitated. I don't know him. He didn't know me, but somehow I felt like I was supposed to be here. Like this was always meant to happen. So I sat. For a while, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the wind whistling through the mountain and the occasional pop of the burning wood. It should have been awkward, but it wasn't. Finally, he broke the silence. You climbed all the way up here, he said, his voice calm, deliberate. But did you ever stop to ask yourself why? I didn't have an answer, so I said nothing. He smiled, like he expected that. People spend their whole lives climbing, he continued, chasing something, a goal, a dream, a better life. But very few of them ever stop to ask, what happened when they reached the top? I just glanced at the peak from a distance, barely visible through all the mist. They feel empty, he said, before I could even respond. Because they never wanted the peak. They wanted the climb. I stared at him. Because he was right, wasn't he? How many times had I set a goal, fought for it, obsessed over it, only to feel nothing when I finally got there? I looked back at the fire, watching the flames dance, twisting, and curling into shapes that existed for a moment and then disappeared. Everything is temporary, he said, as if he was reading my mind. This fire, this mountain, even us. I frowned, and I told him, that's kinda depressing, you know? He chuckled. No. That's what makes it beautiful. He picked up a small stick and held it over the fire, letting the tip burn. Then he blew it out, leaving only a thin trail of smoke. He told me, imagine if the flame lasted forever. Would you still appreciate it? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because I already knew. For a while we just sat there, watching the fire. I felt like I should say something, but I didn't know what. So he spoke again. People think they want permanence, he said. They wait for things to last forever. Love, happiness, success. But tell me. And then he turned me so close and said, if nothing ever ended, how would you know it was special? I opened my mouth, like closed it, because once again, he was right. Think about it. If the sun never set, would you still call it beautiful? If music never stopped, would you still hear it the same way? If you could live forever, would you still care about living at all? I looked back at the fire, the wood turning to ash, slowly, inevitably, and yet that didn't make it sad. If anything, it was more mesmerizing. This is how life works, he said. You don't get to keep anything. Not moments, not people, not even yourself. I frowned, and I said, but doesn't that make it all pointless? He shook his head. No, it makes it priceless. I let the words settle in my mind. I thought about all the times I tried to hold on to things, to moments, to people, to parts of myself that were already gone. And I realized I've been so focused on keeping things that I forgot how to appreciate them while they were here. Everything I love, everything I am, it's all temporary. And somehow that made me love it even more. We sat there for what felt like hours. The conversation had died down, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. Like we were both lost in the vastness of the moment, and then eventually he spoke again. You know, most people live their whole lives like they are in a race. He said, but they're racing to nowhere. They rush to get things, to achieve things, and when they get to the finish line, they're too tired to enjoy it. I thought about that. Again, how many times had I rushed through life, checking off boxes, crossing off goals, and for what? For what? To get to the next thing. So what should we be doing? I asked him. He turned to me with a smile that was both gentle and very knowing. Stop running. What do you mean? Stop trying to catch time. Stop trying to control it. You're so focused at reaching to the end that you miss everything in between. I stared at him, trying to understand. But if we don't work hard, if we don't keep pushing forward, what happens? He took a deep breath, looking into the distance. The mountains will still be there, and so will you, but you have to stop seeing life as something you can finish. I let that sink in. The idea that life wasn't a race, that it wasn't something you could win or even lose. It just was. You'll never catch up to time, he continued, but you can dance with it. And when you stop trying to outpace it, you'll see what you've been missing all along. The sky above us has darkened, and the stars were starting to perk through the clouds. The world felt infinite. And here on this mountain, with this stranger, this wise man whose name I didn't even know, I realized something. Life isn't about being in control, it's about being present. I didn't need to climb this mountain to find that out. I didn't need to let go of everything I thought I knew, to allow myself to just be, to breathe, to appreciate the moment. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a weight lift. You know, he began. After a long silence, the world doesn't owe you anything. Not success, not happiness, not peace. I looked at him and said, that's harsh. He chuckled softly, of course, shook his head. It's the truth, but it's also the most freeing thing you will ever realize. You know, to be honest, I didn't fully understand him, but I let him continue. You see, he said to me, most people go through life expecting that it's supposed to give them something. They expect to be rewarded from their hard work, for their sacrifice, for their kindness. And when they don't get what they think they deserve, they get angry. They feel cheated. I nodded slowly. I'd felt that before. The bitterness that came when life didn't go the way I expected, when I put in the effort but the results didn't match. But life doesn't care, he continued. Life doesn't owe you anything. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can stop demanding from the world and start giving to it. I furrowed my brow and I said, giving? Yes, he said, his voice so gentle but firm. Giving doesn't mean you're giving away everything you have. It means you stop expecting to receive, and instead, you give yourself fully to the moment, to whatever you're doing, whoever you're with, to give your attention, your presence, your love. I paused. I didn't have anything to say at this point. So I just asked him, but if life doesn't owe us anything, why should we keep giving? He smiled softly at me, because that's where you find peace. When you stop holding on to what's not yours to keep, when you stop demanding that life to be fair, you start living for the moment, not for the rewards. And in the end, you will find the reward in the living itself. It was like a light bulb. Flicked on in my mind. For so long, I had been chasing something for some results, some achievement, some validation. I've been focused on what I thought I could get out of life. But in that moment, listening to him, I realized something else. I was completely missing the point. If you only live for the reward, you'll miss the beauty of the journey, he said. I sat back, taking a deep breath. The weight in my chest, the worry about what I still hadn't achieved, what I hadn't done. I felt so insignificant because this moment, this conversation, it wasn't about anything I could get. It was about being here, right now, together. This moment, the old man said, it's all we have. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed him. After a long while, he spoke again. His voice is now even softer, like he was speaking to himself more than me. You know, kid, the thing about life is that it's so much bigger than we realize. I mean, I nodded, unsure what to say, but feeling something deep inside me stir. People get caught up in the small stuff, the little problems, the thing that feels so big in the moment. He continued, but those things are a distraction. They make you forget what really matters. They make you forget how small we are. I shifted slightly, looking at him, and I said, small? He smiled. Yes, small. Yeah, small. Not in a bad way though, just small. He gestured out to the expanse before us, the mountains, the sky, the stars, the vast universe. Do you see this? I nodded. Do you realize how tiny we are in this world? How fleeting time is? And yet, we think that we're the center of it all, that everything revolves around us, that the world owes us something. I felt a lump in my throat. I've spent so much of my life trying to make myself the center of everything. My dreams, my plans, my success. But hearing him talk, hearing the way he just understood the universe, made me feel small in a way I hadn't even considered. But here's the thing, he said. His voice is now taking on a certain quiet strength. When you realize how small you are, how little control you really have, that's when you begin to see the beauty of life. I was silent, absorbing his words. Because when you stop pretending you can control everything, he continued, you begin to appreciate everything. The moments, the people, the experiences, the impermanence. I looked at the fire, now just few embers burning out, and I understood. I understood that all these years I've been chasing control, chasing stability, chasing permanence. I was looking in the wrong places. It's okay to be small, he said, breaking my thoughts. It's okay to let go. It's okay to not have it all figured out. The beauty of life is that it's unpredictable, it's uncontrollable, and that makes it much more meaningful. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the weight of his words sink in. Take it all in, the old man whispered, his words lingering in the air like a secret between us, and I realized right then and there that I didn't need anything anymore. I don't need to chase anything. I didn't need to hold on to the future or try to control the past. I just needed to be present, to appreciate what was in front of me. Because everything, every experience, every person, every breath is temporary, and that makes it all more precious. There was a moment of pure stillness, the kind of silence that fills you up, yet leaves you with space to breathe, to think, to reflect. It was in that moment I realized he wasn't sharing wisdom. He was giving me a gift of understanding, of accepting what I couldn't control. And just as I was about to speak again, to ask him something more, he turned to me, as if he was reading my thoughts, and said, "You are already on your path." My heart skipped. I told him, "What do you mean?" He smiled, almost knowingly. "You're here, aren't you? On this mountain. In this moment. That's all what matters. Stop searching for meaning. Stop chasing the future. It will find you when the time is right." I thought about that. How many times had I been searching for something, anything to give me purpose, like I needed to do more, to be more, just to prove my existence. But standing there, listening to him, I begin to understand the search itself was the distraction. You don't have to force it, he said. You just have to be. His words were like a cool breeze on a hot day, refreshing and clearing away the fog. It felt so simple, yet it resonates so deeply. I took a deep breath and I looked around me, the mountains, the stars, the quiet night. I realized for the first time in a long, long time that I was content with where I was. The world will try to tell you that you need more, that you need to chase success, that you need to have it all figured out. But the truth is, you already have everything you need right now. I wanted to respond, but the words didn't come because at the moment I realized he was right. Everything I had been chasing, everything I had been working on wasn't going to give me the peace I thought it would. Peace was accepting that it was, in being present, and in understanding that nothing lasts forever, that the world would keep spinning, people will keep chasing, and in the end, it will all fade away. But that was okay, because it wasn't about what I would leave behind, it was about I was living right now. The old man stood up, ready to leave, but before he walked away, he turned to me one last time and he said, remember, the moment won't last and neither will you. But while it does, be present, be here, with everything you have. With those final words, he just disappeared into the night and I sat there for a long time, staring at the sky, letting it all sink in. You see, this video is temporary, just like everything in life. One day it won't be here, one day I won't be here, but while I am, while you are, we have this moment. So take a breath, appreciate it, and remember that the journey isn't about what you get or what you achieve. It's about the moments you create, the people you meet, and the peace you find along the way, because this, right here, is everything. And it's all temporary.